Hi, hello, and welcome to my channel. It's the end of the month, so that means it's time to do our monthly wrap up, and I do mine a little bit differently because not only do we talk about books, I also briefly go over all the videos that I've done in the month so that if you've missed something and you're interested in it, I'll leave all those videos linked down below. Also, it kind of helps me not repeat myself, so if I talked about a book in extensive detail in another video during the month, I'm not going to then talk about it again today. So without further ado, let's get into what I did this month. So the very first thing that we did this month was I did kind of like a little bookish vlog where I made a TBR jar, which was so freaking fun. But then I also thought it'd be fun to actually like pull a prompt for that video. So we did that, and then we went to the library to actually pick out the book for the prompt. And that was really fun as well. So if you're interested in that, go check that video out. Again, I'll have all of these videos I'm talking about linked down below. Then the next video that I uploaded was my book covers video, which I feel like that whole concept took me so long from start to finish. I started this whole concept, I think at the beginning of last month, where I went to the bookstore and picked out books that had cool covers, and then I had you guys vote on them. I feel like I've said this so many times. And then the whole idea was that I would buy the books that you guys voted on and then read them in a separate video. And I finally got around to doing that this month. I meant for those two videos to like go up like back to back, or at least like very close together, and it just did not happen that way at all. And then the very last video that I posted this past month was a book haul, but specifically my very last book depository haul. That's basically where I get all of like my international covers. So yeah, I panicked and I bought like all of the books that I had saved in my wish list, and that was all that I posted in April. I feel like that doesn't sound like much at all. May is a new month. Hopefully we can do 2 a week this month. I do have 2 videos a week for the entire month planned, so let's just cross our fingers that I can actually get them done. Now for the second half of this video, let's go ahead and talk about the books that I read during the month that I didn't talk about. First 2 that I have to talk about are books that we got from the library during our TBR vlog video at the beginning of the month. And the first book was The Sea Witch. This is actually part of a series called the Wicked Villains series, I believe, and they're essentially kind of like Disney retellings that are very, very loosely inspired by Disney movies, aka it really just uses names. These books are basically like reading porn, all spice with just like a teeny tiny bit of story sprinkled in. And for me personally, when I read spice, I like it to be mostly story with just like a little bit of spice, because my favorite part of spice or smut is like the tension built between the characters. And if there's too much spice, you kind of lose that tension. So these books are not really my vibe. Honestly, I don't even know why I got this one after reading the first one, because I really didn't like the first one. So far with the 2 books that I've read, they seem to have their own kind of like genre of spice or whatever. Like the first one, it was kind of like consensual non-consent, which not my vibe. And this one was more of like a throuple story between Eric and Ursula, and they kind of bring Ariel into their relationship. And at first they do it because they're trying to like get back at King Triton, which is Ariel's dad, but they end up actually falling for her, and they all kind of decide to be together. It was definitely a lot more interesting to me than the first book that I read. So I definitely did rate this one higher. This one got 3 stars, whereas Desperate Measures, I think I gave 2. But also, that being said, I oddly want to read more. So I don't know. I actually wrote something down to like remind myself. Basically, I said reading this book was like when you try a new food and the first bite you take, you're kind of like, ugh, I don't like that. But then you kind of keep finding yourself taking more bites. That's how I feel about these books. Like, I don't like them, but at the same time, I want to read more. The other book that I read that I got from the library was called Nettle and Bone. This one, unfortunately, I read fresh into a reading slump. So even though this book is pretty tiny, it took me quite a bit of time to read it. And I feel like I wasn't able to fully appreciate the book while I was reading it because I was kind of like forcing myself to read it. This is basically about a girl who's trying to rescue her sister, and then along the way she kind of like collects, if you will, like a ragtag team to kind of like help her rescue her sister. And that team includes a dog that she made of bone that she then named Bone Dog, a desk wife, which is basically kind of like a witch, and she also has a chicken that apparently has a demon in it. There's also a godmother, and that part kind of reminded me of what's that movie, Sleeping Beauty, where the 3 little fairies go in and they kind of like bless Sleeping Beauty with like a wish. That's basically what godmothers do. And there's also a royal guard that was banished from his like town or whatever because he like killed someone. So the majority of the book is her kind of like picking these people up one by one as they all go through like adventures to get to her sister to rescue her. So it's such like a cute sounding story, but for some reason I just like couldn't get into it while I was reading it. I feel like I appreciate it more after the fact than while I was reading it, which is kind of annoying. So I'm kind of tempted to like get it again and read it in a couple of months or something to see if I like it more. And then to finish off our reads for the month, I basically read an entire trilogy in 2 days. And that trilogy is called A Kingdom of Stars and Shadows. I've mentioned this a couple of times, but me and my sister have our own like 2-person book club, which means basically every month we pick a book together and read it and kind of like talk amongst ourselves about it. And this month, this was our pick, which I've actually never heard of. My sister suggested this one, and I am so glad that she did because I absolutely loved it. My birthday is actually this month as well, but my sister actually sent me my present early and she got me a freaking Kindle. And it was kind of perfect because this book was actually free on Kindle Unlimited along with the other 2 books in the series. So I downloaded all of them and like I said, I read them within 2 days. Also too, if you're curious, my sister also really liked the series. And it's funny because we both have Goodreads accounts and she rated them the exact same as I did. So I did rate them like per book. I'm going to talk about them as a whole for this video, but I did rate them per book on my Goodreads. So the first book, A Kingdom of Stars and Shadows, I gave 5 stars to. And then the second book, A Kingdom of Venom and Vows, I rated 4 stars. And then A Kingdom of Blood and Betrayal, I also rated 4 stars. But overall, I definitely would give the series like a 5-star rating. This book basically has regular human people, fairies, and also vampires. The fairies and the vampires have their own kind of like kingdoms. And essentially every once in a while, there's a human that's born that's considered like a star blessed. And basically for the fairies to have their powers, they need to drink the blood of the star blessed. And as far as I can remember, I think the vampires just like drink blood from anyone, but also it does benefit them to also drink the star blessed blood. So anyway, basically the first book is the main character. She's a star blessed, and basically since the second she was born, she's been betrothed to the future fairy king. And I'm gonna go ahead and read the synopsis of the book from Amazon because I feel like it'll give you a better gist. So it says, I am told my union to the crowned prince will determine the fate of the kingdom, but it isn't my betrothed who haunts my dreams. It's the half-breed prince who stands at his side. He is darkness and sin, and when he whispers promises of wickedness in my ear, I crave a man who I can't have. Every thought I have is treasonous. The way my hands ache to touch him, deceitful. Even my dreams make me a traitor to the kingdom I am sworn to protect. But when the kingdom is attacked, I am forced to make choices I'm not prepared for. Our lies and deception are entangled in the shadows and stars, and as they unravel, so shall my fate. Betray a kingdom or betray my heart. So yeah, this is a spicy book, by the way. It doesn't look like it from the cover, but there's quite a bit, which is actually one of the reasons why the third book got a 4-star rating instead of a 5. The actual story itself was, I think, my favorite out of all 3 books, but there was so much like spicy, smutty scenes that it got repetitive and boring. There were actually several times where it would have a spice scene and then another one right after it. It's like, how many times are we gonna do this? And they also don't like vary that much between each other, so it's just super repetitive. But overall, I really, really enjoyed. If you like spicy fantasy, that is definitely a highly recommend. I really enjoyed it. And again, if you have a Kindle, specifically Kindle Unlimited, they are free, all 3 of them. But anyway, that is everything that I have for this video. If you're interested in any of the books that I talked about, I will have them all linked down below. And yeah, I think that's everything that I have to say. I hope you have / have had the most amazing of days, and I will hopefully see you guys in the next one. Bye!